Ever thought you knew everything about someone, only to find out their life was just the tip of an unimaginable iceberg? I used to live a life of routine, family, friends, and the occasional bump in the road. But nothing prepared me for the day my husband, Mark, vanished. His unexpected return unveiled a world of secrets, dangerous syndicates, and betrayals close to home. My family was hurled into a whirlwind adventure, making us question everything we once held true. If you're curious about how a seemingly ordinary family navigated the dark underbelly of crime, deception, and revenge, I invite you to delve into our journey. What you'll find might just change your perception of the people around you forever. My name is Anna, and this is my story. It was a crisp Tuesday morning when I woke up to find the left side of my bed cold and empty. Initially, I assumed Mark, my husband of 7 years, had woken up earlier for a jog or to get some breakfast. However, as the day wore on, I noticed his phone, wallet, and car were still in their usual spots. The unsettling feeling in my gut grew stronger. By evening, panic had completely taken over. Neither his workplace nor any of our friends or family had seen him. The kids were restless, continually asking, "Where's Daddy?" Holding back tears, I always replied with, "He must be busy, he'll be back soon." However, soon turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. No calls, no texts, no notes, no nothing. Just pure silence. The police were of little help. With no evidence of foul play, they marked him as a voluntary missing person. My heart shattered. How could the love of my life, the father of our 3 children, leave without any explanation? Every day was a challenge. I tried to be both a mother and father to my kids, all while battling the betrayal and anger boiling inside me. How could he do this? Why? Was our love not enough? I constantly thought to myself. But amid the anger, there was a glimmer of hope, a burning desire for closure, and an inkling of revenge. If he had chosen to desert us, I wasn't about to let him forget us so easily. Fast forward to a year later. I had returned from a long day of work, kids in tow, when I found a letter on our doorstep. My heart raced as I recognized the familiar handwriting. It was from Mark. "Dear Anna, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve a chance to explain myself. But if you're willing to hear me out, meet me at the old tree house we built together tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. Mark." I read the note over and over, each time feeling a mix of anger, pain, and hope. The audacity of this man to disappear for a year and then waltz back into our lives as if nothing happened. "Oh, he's going to get what's coming to him," I muttered to myself. The kids sensed something was off. "Mom, what's that? Is it from Daddy?" My eldest, Max, asked, his eyes wide with a mixture of hope and fear. I hesitated, thinking of the best way to shield them from more pain. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Just an old friend," I replied, avoiding his gaze. That night, sleep eluded me. My mind raced with different scenarios. Was he in trouble? Was he remorseful? Or was this another cruel trick? And then, there was the burning desire for revenge. The pain he inflicted on our family was immeasurable. I wanted him to feel a fraction of the anguish we had been through. As dawn broke, a plan began to form. I was going to give Mark a taste of his own medicine, make him realize the weight of his actions. But first, I needed to meet him, to hear his side of the story. The day dragged on. Every tick of the clock felt like an eternity. And as 5 p.m. approached, I was a mix of anxiety, rage, and anticipation. I left the kids with my neighbor and headed to our old treehouse. As I approached the clearing, I saw a figure standing by the tree. It was Mark, but he looked different, older, wearier. He had lost weight and had a ruggedness to him that I hadn't seen before. "Anna," he whispered as I approached, his voice filled with sorrow. "I thought you'd never come." Little did he know that I was there with a plan, a purpose, and revenge was its name. As I walked closer, Mark's eyes welled up with tears, but I was unmoved. The hollow look in his eyes did nothing to soften the stone that my heart had become. The kids' endless nights of crying, their questions about their father, the bills piling up, and my sleepless nights flashed before my eyes. "Anna, I'm so sore." I cut him off. "Sorry? You think saying sorry now will fix everything?" My voice trembled, not just with anger, but with the weight of the suppressed emotions from the past year. "Where were you, Mark? Why did you leave us?" Mark looked down, taking a deep breath. "I can't justify my actions, Anna. I made a terrible mistake, but I had my reasons." I laughed bitterly. Reasons? What possible reasons could make a man abandon his family without a word? He looked up, eyes searching mine. "It's not as simple as you think, Anna. I had no choice. I was trying to protect you all." I scoffed. "Protect us? By leaving us alone, vulnerable and broken? Some protection, that is." Mark hesitated, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. "Anna, I got involved with some dangerous people, and I became privy to information I shouldn't have known. Staying would have put you and the kids in danger. I thought distancing myself would keep you safe." Willie, a part of me wanted to believe him. The anger and pain were too overwhelming. "So you played hero and left us to fend for ourselves? You could have at least left a note, a message, something. Instead, you left a gaping hole in our lives." Mark's voice cracked. "I know, and I can never make up for it. But I'm here now, and I want to make things right." That's when my plan for revenge kicked in. "All right, Mark, you want to make things right? Here's what you're going to do." I explained my plan to him, detailing every step. I could see the dread in his eyes, but he didn't object. My revenge was simple but effective. Mark was going to experience the same loneliness, fear, and uncertainty that we had faced for the past year. For the next month, Mark would live in the treehouse, cut off from the world. No phone, no contact, no comforts. Just him and his thoughts. He would get a taste of what it felt like to be isolated, abandoned, and forgotten. Every weekend, I would visit him, not to comfort, but to remind him of the pain he had caused. That night, I left him in the treehouse with just a blanket and some canned food. As I walked away, I couldn't help but feel a pang of satisfaction. This is for the kids, I thought to myself. He needs to understand the pain he caused. Over the next few weeks, I visited Mark as planned. Each time, he looked more forlorn, more broken, the weight of his mistakes pressing down on him. But each visit also rekindled a spark, a connection we once shared. While I wanted him to feel the pain, I also found myself wrestling with the love that still lingered deep within me. One Saturday, as I approached the treehouse, I found Mark feverishly scribbling in a makeshift journal made from scraps of paper and tied together with twigs. He looked up, eyes filled with a mix of pain and determination. "Anna," he began, "I've been writing, reflecting on everything. And while this punishment is hard, it's given me time to think, to realize the gravity of my mistakes. I want to share this with you, my reflections, my regrets." His words struck a chord, and I found myself torn between my thirst for revenge and the lingering love I still felt for the man before me. The coming weeks would prove to be a journey, not just for Mark, but for me as well. The path of revenge had taken an unexpected turn, one that I hadn't foreseen. Week 5 was when things started to shift. The plan was clear: make Mark feel what we felt. But every weekend, as I climbed up to the treehouse, I was met with not just a broken man, but a transformative one. His writings painted vivid imagery of our past, our love, our dreams and hopes, all intertwined with his deepest regrets. He shared stories from his journal, and each entry was like a window into his soul. One particular entry stood out: Day 28. Every day I wake up to the chirping of birds, and as the cold seeps through my bones, I'm reminded of the warmth I willingly left behind. Anna, I dreamt of our first date last night, the laughter, the stolen glances. Waking up to this reality feels like a nightmare. I understand now, more than ever, the magnitude of my mistakes. Reading his words, the anger inside me began to dissipate, replaced by a myriad of emotions. Memories flooded back. Our first date, the birth of our children, the life we built. The weight of my revenge suddenly felt heavy on my shoulders. One evening, as I approached the treehouse, I found Mark engrossed in a sketch. He was drawing our family, using charcoal from the burnt-out logs of his small campfire. The raw emotion captured in that rudimentary artwork was palpable. "Anna," he said without looking up, "I've realized that living without you and the kids, even for this short period, is a fate worse than death. I've felt a loneliness that's deeper than the physical isolation of this treehouse." His voice trembled. "Every day, I see the kids playing in the backyard from this tiny window. Hearing their laughter, yet not being able to hold or comfort them, has been torture. But it's a pain I've earned, and a pain I needed to understand the depth of what I put you all through." My heart ached. The revenge that once felt so just and warranted now felt misguided. But there were still so many questions left unanswered. The doubts remained. Why did he get involved with these dangerous people? Why not confide in me? One day, he handed me a folded piece of paper from his journal. It was a letter addressed to those very questions. "Anna, I never meant for any of this. It started innocently, a business venture with an old college friend, but it quickly spiraled into a web of deceit and danger. They had ties to criminal syndicates, and I inadvertently became a witness to their illegal activities. I overheard plans, dangerous ones. And when they realized I knew, they threatened our family. My instinct was to protect you, but in my panic, I chose flight over fight. Every day I spent away was agony. The guilt consumed me, but the fear of those men finding you held me back. I thought staying away would keep you safe. Now, I understand it was the worst mistake of my life." Mark. As the weeks passed, my visits to the treehouse became less about reminding Mark of his errors and more about rekindling our bond. My revenge had set us on a path neither of us had expected, a path of understanding, healing, and redemption. But the journey was far from over. Mark's revelations about his entanglement with the criminal syndicate shocked me to the core. The heavy weight of fear and insecurity from the past year now had a name. But the more pressing question was, if he was willing to come back, were they still a threat? "Mark," I whispered one chilly evening, the words escaping through trembling lips. "If they're still out there, aren't we all in danger?" He gazed out from the treehouse's tiny window, his eyes scanning the shadows beyond our garden. "I've thought of that too," he admitted. "But I made sure to leave them with a strong impression that I wouldn't spill their secrets. They believe that if they leave our family alone, their operations remain safe." The very idea that we were bargaining our safety against the secrecy of a criminal empire was terrifying. But Mark had a plan. He'd had a lot of time to think, after all. I reached out to an old contact, someone trustworthy from my college days, now in the FBI. I've sent him everything I know, anonymously, of course. If things go according to plan, they'll be rounded up soon, and we won't have to live in fear. As days turned into weeks, Mark's information began to make waves. Without revealing his identity, he had tipped off the authorities about several ongoing operations. News started trickling in about arrests and raids on syndicate hideouts. The web of crime started to unravel, and we dared to hope. But revenge has a funny way of looping back. My actions, designed to punish Mark for his absence, had unexpectedly made him a cornerstone in dismantling a criminal empire. And while we reveled in our newfound hope, we knew that the conclusion was imminent. I began to notice unfamiliar cars parked at a distance, men in sunglasses watching the house. Paranoia grew. Had they connected the dots? Was Mark's cover blown? One afternoon, as I played with the kids in the garden, an unknown number flashed on my phone. Answering it, I heard a distorted voice. "You think you can hide from us? You'll regret it." Fear clawed at me. I looked up to see Mark gazing down from the treehouse, a somber expression on his face. He had overheard the threat. But amidst the fear, a thought gnawed at me. What if we turned the tables one last time? Together, we hatched a plan. We'd bring the danger to our doorstep and confront it head-on. Using his contacts, Mark arranged for law enforcement to be on standby. And then, we baited the trap. Mark sent out a message, one that indicated he had more information that he'd release unless they backed off. The evening was tense. We fortified the house and waited. The quiet of the night was broken by the sound of approaching vehicles. Headlights flashed, silhouettes approached, and then all hell broke loose. But the syndicate didn't expect what awaited them. As they made their move, floodlights illuminated the garden, blinding them. Law enforcement agencies swooped in, catching them off guard. It was a confrontation, but it was one-sided. In the aftermath of the takedown, Mark was heralded as an unsung hero. His anonymity preserved, he played a pivotal role in bringing down a major crime ring. But that was secondary to our primary victory. Our family, once fractured and lost, was whole again. Yet, as I laid in bed that night, one burning question remained. Was our journey truly over? Or were we merely at the cusp of another adventure? Only time would tell. The next few months were a dizzying whirlwind. As a family, we took a collective decision to move, seeking anonymity in a smaller town far from our past haunts. It wasn't just about evading remnants of the syndicate, but also about starting fresh, free from the specters of our past. Life in the countryside was different, calmer. The kids adapted quickly, losing themselves in the vast fields and forests. Mark took up a teaching job in a local community college, and I started a small online business. Our once fractured lives were mending. There were moments, though, when the weight of our shared history would crash down on us, especially on quiet nights, when the howling of the wind echoed the haunting memories of our past. One evening, as Mark and I sat on our porch, watching a breathtaking sunset, a black car pulled up in our driveway. The sight immediately filled me with trepidation. Could they have found us? I thought. But then, a familiar face emerged. It was Brian, Mark's college friend and our FBI contact. "We're not fully in the clear yet," Brian began, his face grave. "Some of the syndicate's members evaded arrest, and they're regrouping. They might not know where you are now, but they're looking." Mark's face darkened. "I thought we were done with this." "We almost are," Brian reassured. "We just need something more, a final piece of evidence to put them away for good. The leader, the one truly pulling the strings, has been elusive. We believe he's overseas, but we have a lead, a meeting point where they plan to regroup." Mark's eyes narrowed. "What do you need from us?" Brian sighed. "A bait, and that bait is you, Mark. We'll ensure your safety, of course. If this works, it'll be the end. Forever." I felt a shiver run down my spine. The thought of putting our family in danger again was unbearable. But there was also the promise of finality, of permanently ending the nightmare that had shadowed us. With a heavy heart, and after many discussions, Mark agreed. It was time for one last game of cat and mouse. Brian's team meticulously planned the operation, ensuring layers of protection around Mark. The chosen location was an old warehouse, and I insisted on being close, hiding in a surveillance van with Brian. The night of the operation was agonizing. From the van, I watched Mark, a lone figure, waiting. Hours dragged on, until finally a limousine pulled up. Out stepped a figure, face hidden by shadows, but the unmistakable aura of power evident. As they conversed, Brian's team prepared to strike. But suddenly, alarms blared. The warehouse was rigged. A cloud of smoke enveloped the area. Through the haze, figures clashed, shots were fired. My heart raced. "Where's Mark?" I thought, panic flooding me. After what felt like an eternity, the smoke cleared. Bodies lay strewn around, but Mark was standing, a bit disheveled, but alive. And beside him, handcuffed, was the syndicate leader, a face I never expected. It was Mr. Thompson, our neighbor from our old life. Brian emerged from the van, a victorious smile on his face. "We got him," he said, clasping Mark's hand. The following months saw the syndicate crumble. With their leader in custody and most of their operations exposed, they were finished. Mr. Thompson's arrest made headlines, revealing his double life as a seemingly benign neighbor and a global crime lord. Our life returned to its peaceful rhythm. The scars of our past remained but faded with time. We became local heroes, with our story of resilience and love turning into the stuff of legends in our small town. The past's shadows receded, and as we moved forward, we held on to each other tighter, knowing that together we could overcome any storm. And so, our tale comes to a close, not with an ending, but with a new beginning.